All right.
We are live. We are James and Willem's creative sessions.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm going to cough. Wow. It's because I haven't had enough coffee, maybe. Don't know.
I haven't even started my coffee.
What do you mean? Really?
Yeah, no, I just poured it and then we started talking and then we were looking for the streaming key and,
All of that jazz. I would have assumed you were already into the coffee, but wow. Okay. This is first thing in the morning. So,
It is first thing in the morning for me.
On a Sunday morning.
It is first thing in the morning. I just, got out of my shower and...
At least you had a shower today. I will freely say I haven't. I just worked out.
Ooh, that's one thing I'm changing from the Atomic Habits. I'm in the middle of reading Atomic Habits. James Clear, a book from James Clear for anybody. Oh, that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. Actually, that's not our theme. Do you want to introduce our theme or does it matter?
Our theme is creative endings.
So how do you end something?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
And
also updating ourselves and various projects that we're working on. So,
yeah.
But finish the James Clear thing because I'm a James Clear fanboy and I want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, so actually I will show this. I don't get anything, but that's the book. So on one hand, I am enjoying this book and there's definitely a lot of stuff that I could implement because most of it is exercisey in nature.
Yeah.
On another hand, it's such it riles me up how it's not a good book. It's so formulaic in the self-help style of books. It's using the same examples that I've seen in other books used for other things. And it's just, so you read it very fast. It's kind of okay there, but the value clearly is in applying the exercises, but there's really little value in the book itself, I find.
Can you, is there a specific example? Yeah, it does make sense. Is there an example that where you read in this book that you've heard in another book?
So what I mean by the formulaic structure is, and I understood by somebody who told me they took a speed reading class and you can speed read this type of stuff. Now I understand all the people that are like speed reading this type of stuff because it's the same stuff and the same stories. So this type of nonfiction book that is sort of self-helpy. So examples of what the stories you mean? So each example, because what you said is always the same formula.
Yeah.
As in the chapter has a story of an example that illustrates the point or the exercise.
Yeah.
And then he goes through like a simple principle that he's taken. Half of them come from other books and other people anyway. And then tells you like how you should be applying this and then repeats it at the end of the chapter. And then you start another chapter. And it's very simple, very easy to read. This is widely spaced out. It's, and so, for example, one of the stories, let's see. This one is very dubious on the law of least effort in germs. So the whole example is from the book Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel that we've talked about before.
Yeah, which I love.
On the idea that, which I thought was silly, the shape of human behavior is spread out through an east-west orientation easier than through a north-south orientation and looking at the shape of the continents. So I haven't read the book, and you told me it was really good.
That idea is directly from Jared Diamond's.
Yeah, no, it is. He quotes him. But so anyway, I'd heard about that before, but on the other hand, it also riles me up a little bit because I find myself, which I think is normal and everybody does, not great with building habits like this. And there's certainly a lot for me to take from an exercise standpoint, but it's also kind of annoying because I'm like, I have to probably change some of the things I operate. But so it's good and it's not good is my main point.
Yeah, and it works. Annoyingly, it works.
Oh yeah. I can totally see how it would work.
It works.
And also, particularly this week, I've not been great with building habits. And so my habit of writing, I just, there's a day I didn't journal and there's multiple days I didn't write.
Anyway. Do you know, I had the same thing this week. Like normally evening.
I felt like a slob.
I journal. I missed 2 days journaling. Like what? I open my journal. I'm like, oh, I didn't journal yesterday. So the thing about journaling for me is I also read Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and he says to build a daily journaling, write less than you feel you should, just a bit less than you feel you should. And that
sometimes I really just jot a few things just to say that I've done it.
Me too. But when I look back over it, it triggers a lot for me reflecting. And that's the other big thing I got from the Essentialism book. But me too. Yeah, I've had a bit of a kind of like how I thought I did that, but I didn't kind of week. So
no, I felt like the week has slipped under, and I felt I don't know, lazy and not really doing the things I should be doing. Which is not necessarily true, but it was just how it felt. And it felt like the day was going by very fast. And
did you do any writing this week?
Very little. I did a little bit of beginning of the week, and I haven't for the past 3 days. And I really should have finished my short story. We've got 2 weeks. But but the second week is I'm going to be on holidays and skiing. I'm not going to write. Or not a lot. And so really, I should be finished this week, and I haven't progressed.
Did you just say you finished your short story though?
No, I should.
Oh,
to finish it, but by the end of the month when I said I would. Mm-hmm. So I said I would have finished it. So next week we're not streaming because I'm going to be away on holidays, and the following week on the 27th we're streaming. And I promised James that I would have finished my short story by then, or have a first draft of it, a legible first draft. You still would be improved and everything else, but I would have something that I could say this is complete, not finished yet, but complete. Anyway, because I'm going on holidays, I should have finished it within the next week, not 2 weeks. Does that make sense? Anyway, there's a long way to explain the kind of very simple thing, but anyway. Which is interesting. I'll talk about endings, by the way, to bring it back to our topic that we haven't broached yet.
All right. It all relates.
There are things like what we're talking about with atomic habits and behaviors that do not have an end. Journaling by itself doesn't have an end. Exercising technically doesn't really have an end. Meditating for me doesn't. It's become part of my routine in my life. Just like brushing my teeth doesn't really have an end, which he talks about. Of course, he talks about those kinds of habits that have been integrated completely. So what are we talking about when we're talking about endings? Are we talking about stories? What are we talking about?
I think the creative endeavors, like the habit thing, right? Because I think it's worth saying there's a difference between completion and ending. So I complete brushing my teeth, I complete working out, but there's no ending to me working out. There might be a goal. There might be some goal I'm looking for the year, and then I'll be like, okay. But I've certainly found that when it comes to anything creative, unless I have a date by when I'm going to finish it, so I'm going to finish by the end of the month my next blog post about my cancer journey, which I've been avoiding and procrastinating on. If I don't have a date or some end point or something that I'm aiming for, it's not going to happen. It really isn't going to happen. Same when I've been writing in school, I tell the pupils, pick what your end point is going to be and then write towards that, and the writing has progress. So there's
which is exactly, by the way, why I gave you a date, which is remember, I might have said last week that one of my things is I do write and I never finish anything, but I can't remember if I said it on air or not. But anyway.
You did. But yes. What I wanted to ask you about, I'm listening to Tim Ferriss interview Cal Newport. This guy, oh my gosh, I really like deep work.
So deep work.
I haven't read any of his other books.
I haven't either, but I read. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
He's a contributing writer to the New Yorker as well. He's a computer scientist. He publishes regularly on.
And he's a tenured professor.
He's a tenured professor. He does all this stuff. I'm like, oh, wow. And then listening to him talk about how he plans out is similar to what Davina and I do, but he's super duper structured when he writes. Like he plans everything, and it comes across in his writing style as well. What I wanted to ask you is, so you're writing the short story. Do you have an ending in mind or not? An ending to the short story?
Yes, because as we talked about the difference between architects and we did gardeners. Or whatever. last week. And so I'm clearly a lot more of a gardener. I think I said that last week, didn't I?
You did.
I wrote a bunch of stuff, and then I circled back and I started putting in a bit of structure so that I would have a synopsis, a beginning, middle, and end. And I brainstormed a bit about what those were. I have a possible ending in mind that I think I'm going to go with, even though I'm not satisfied that it's original enough. But I think originality is not going to be the goal for this one, even though it's probably still original. But so yes, but it's not. It's still a little bit. It needs more shape. And I think that for this ending to work, and I'm still only at the beginning of this short story, I think I have to go back. I will have to go back a little bit to the beginning and foreshadow a few things to make it good, I think, but I'm not sure. So I have an ending in mind that I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work or how it's going to work yet.
Certainly what I find with writing school essays, I might have the endpoint.
Knowing that we've been talking about two things that are very non-fiction writers, and I'm writing fiction. By the way,
but I think that.
And when I write a blog post or an article, I rarely know where it's going when I write it.
Yeah, which is fine, I think. I think certainly writing essays, I like to have an endpoint, but the way I get there might change. I don't know that the ending itself changes very much, and maybe that's a point about non-fiction writing. Whereas, I'm sure if I was writing fiction, the end point, I might have an end point. How I get there might change, which means the ending changes, which is that idea of gardener rather than architect. So it sounds, listening to you, I'm genuinely interested to read the short story because I've no idea what it's going to be like.
And that's what makes the most difference. I mean, I'm probably going to be repeating this on this calls, but to talk about it with you and to have promised something for action is going to make I need to get back onto it this week.
It's
a bit of sabotaging that I didn't really put in time for this past week, even though I had scheduled some at the beginning of the week.
Okay. I am intrigued
Arguably
by the contents of your mind in a short story, because because we spent so much time talking online, hours talking, but to read something you've written that's fiction, I think would be very interesting. I was going to say,
and I've had compliments from the bits and pieces I read. I write a fiction, so to have something complete is going to be good.
Oh yeah. So this idea of endings, I think if I was writing fiction, I wouldn't have an ending in mind. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I should write some fiction.
Maybe you should write some fiction and find out.
Yeah, because hang on, I showed you this book before.
What's this one? Oh yes. Writing prompts.
Yeah. Now, I haven't written it for ages, but where's the one I did write like 3 or 4 things. They're very odd. I think it's odd. Some of it is really odd, but because it's a prompt. Wow, it looks like I've written nothing.
Should I share our live on social media, even though we said we were not going to do that?
Share what on social media?
Our live.
You can if you want. List. So I wrote this in 2016. List 5 cultural events that impacted you greatly, then write about one of them without mentioning yourself.
Sorry, say that again.
List 5 cultural events that impacted you greatly, then write about one of them without mentioning yourself. Okay. So I definitely done. I remember I wrote another one, a really short one, and it was something about, it ended up being in space. And but it's a really, really interesting book. And I'm actually going to say now that I'll add to this 3 times. I'm on holiday half term next week. So I'm going to add to this 3 times by the time we speak next. Oh, here we go. Here's one.
Okay.
Another one, 2016. There's 4. So it's got 4.
You want me to maybe write this down? Oh, it's got 4. It's okay.
It's got 4 into bits. 4. Split into 4. It says, write about a song, describe nearly drowning, the 30-year lie, and $2 isn't a lot of money unless some really cool stuff. And I'm sure that one of them was about ending up in space and like. Do you know what? I might actually write these up and put them in the blog post. So I'm saying
another reminder that I need to change my website. I haven't done anything about
that. Don't worry about that. So I'm saying, because we're streaming next week, right?
Yeah. No, not next week.
Not next
I'll
week.
be skiing next week.
You're skiing next week?
Yeah. The following week, 27th.
A little bit jealous of. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So I'm saying by the 27th, I'm writing this down.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit bragging about.
Yeah. By the 27th, I will have added 3.
I should be doing a lot more new business development and pipelining leads for work because I had not had tons of work in January, February.
Mm-hmm.
But I went skiing and I'm going skiing again. So, and that is making me very happy.
I'm also going to type up those short stories. They're not short stories. I don't know what they are. They're just writing.
They're writing exercises.
Yeah. I'm going to type them up and put them on my blog for fun. Have you done any like work-based writing this week?
Yes, a bit. So I tried a couple of things. The past couple of weeks, so I was looking at, because it was interesting actually for my client, I was looking at some LinkedIn statistics,
mm-hmm.
and I was looking at my statistics briefly. And the two,
mm-hmm.
there's different ways you can write stuff on LinkedIn. You can write posts or write an article. They
Yep.
have an article feature.
Yep.
So the last 2 I wrote were longer articles published as articles.
Okay.
Which have a permalink, which are findable on Google, which are added to your profile, that are not necessarily easy to locate when you get
mm-hmm.
onto the LinkedIn profile, I find.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a publishing tool meant to be competing with stuff like Medium and or your own blog, so that you don't need your own blog or newsletter thing. On the other hand, it tends to not get as many views as a post update.
Right. Yeah.
So I looked at how many views I had on my thing last week, and I didn't have a lot. Literally, I think I had 36, which I was like, wow, that's really low. I don't know, and I haven't followed how many I should have, but I looked at a little bit of the previous, and I was like, and because I was looking at updates for my client and looking at what worked and what was going on with the algorithm on LinkedIn these days, guess what? Of course, the most popular times to post are in the middle of the week, for depending on what type of research you trust, but it tends to be like, Wednesday morning kind of thing. Yep. Tuesday, Wednesday morning, middle of the week.
Yep.
Mid-morning. And some other research say it's fine mid-afternoon and Thursday, but basically not Monday, not Friday, and not the weekend for LinkedIn.
Yep.
Of course, I posted on Friday, and I posted on Friday again this week. But other types of stuff, both articles I wrote the previous 2 weeks, and many of my articles tend to be a little bit complex. Even though it was not a very long article, it was like 5 minutes to read. It's still, and we're in a listicle / bite-sized world where, of course, the things that work the best are lists of, quick insights of a very short listicle type thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I hate those things. So then I thought, okay, what could I write about? Let's put some content in a post rather than doing it as an article to see the difference.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And I was thinking, okay, well, my 2 last articles were a little bit too esoteric, probably. They're interesting for me, and I think they're interesting if you get into it, but they don't conform to, here are the top 3 things you should be doing in marketing, blah, blah, blah.
And these are in French, right?
Whatever. Yeah, this is all in French.
Yeah.
Which ideally I should do both, but it already takes a while to do it in French. So anyway. And I've tried to look for best practices for bilingual stuff on social media. It's really difficult to find. There's very few people who do it. I think probably for a reason.
Yeah, probably the demand might not be there for it. So you wrote anyway,
I wrote
Microsoft
so I had just
Wizard.
I looked at some news like I usually do to try to find inspiration, what I described last week.
Yep.
And I was not finding what I wanted, but then after that I thought, okay, I'll just stop trying to be too complicated. unfortunately, because I do enjoy the complexity. And the day before, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was asking me a genuine question on, is it really useful? And he was like, is it me, or is it really not useful to do Instagram for B2B communications? If I'm a business selling services to another business, and probably we're talking small to medium businesses, we're not talking anything massive, who don't have a massive marketing budget, what's really the use, like, what's the worth of Instagram? And so I wrote a post just relating that conversation.
It's a good question.
And saying, okay, well, here's the top 3 reasons I think Instagram could be worthwhile, but otherwise I think it's generally not for a business and for B2B services. And that I read a bunch of posts that were talking about the statistics of why it matters for B2B marketers, and I'm not convinced at all, because they were just using general statistics.
That sounds like a great post.
Yeah, and it had 300 views. It had very little reactions, so very little likes and comments, but it had a lot more views than the article, and certainly going in the right direction. I tagged a couple of friends, the friend who talked about it and another friend. I put hashtags and blah, blah, blah. So it had a lot more views.
Oh, maybe you should ask that friend to comment on it.
I did. I tagged him. I don't know. One other friend commented on it. And my top 3 reasons were, 1, to share about the internal culture of the company.
Yep.
2, and related to that, I think it could be really useful from a recruitment standpoint, particularly if you want to attract young talent and young graduates, to showcase this is how a company is behind the scenes. And 3, both of those things together, or anything else that you want, it can be generally great for your brand image and business image to be sharing stuff on Instagram. But on the other hand, Instagram for me, and I think in general, is primarily visual. It's visual content. So if you're not going to put the effort, or if you don't have the time and budget to really make great visual content that is somehow related to your business, then it's not worth it. Just don't waste your time on it. Particularly, so, and I started out with that. So if you have limited time and budget, I'm not convinced. And of all the posts that I read that were like, 10,000 statistics why B2B marketing should totally do Instagram, I think are not convincing at all. Because they start with widespread statistics, like, there's 1.2 billion people on Instagram. Well, like, yeah, but if I'm a small business operating in a regional side of a country, why do I care that there's 1.2 billion people in the world who are using it? I don't really care. It doesn't do anything for my business.
Yeah.
And I did spend a little bit more time than necessary. All of this took more than an hour because I was looking for something else at first. Then I changed my mind. Then I went back to this, and I don't know.
For those
I gave up the idea that this was not original and it was just top 3 boring stuff that I hate writing. I'm not interested in writing this stuff. I'm really not.
For the people watching, the what Willem just described about looking for something else and then this thing and that's how his mind works. And I think
Isn't that normal?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
It's not. The thing, that's why I like listening to you, because if I'm doing something like that, I have my idea that I want to write about, whatever it is. I'll do some research, I'll collect things, and then there might be a little rabbit hole, but it's not very big. And I just close it and come back to what I'm doing. Maybe because have you heard of the Forest app?
What?
There's an app called Forest.
No, I don't know about it.
And it's a Chrome extension as well. So it was one of my pupils who told me about this, right? So you put it on your phone, or you put it on your Chrome extension or whatever browser extension, and if it has a little icon of a tree, and you set it for like 20 minutes or half an hour, and you don't use your phone, but if you do use your phone, the tree dies.
What? So this is something like a Tamagotchi, and something to prevent you from using your phone? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But now, okay, so my phone isn't really the issue, but the reason I like it is I can play rain sounds and write. It plays rain sounds, it grows a tree, and they do a thing where they plant real trees as well. So I put my laptop there, I put my phone in front of my laptop, and then I'll put the rain sounds on and I'll write or do whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And after about 20 minutes, it finishes, the tree's grown, and or you can set the timer of how long you want it, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. And then I'll finish. Now, sometimes I'll stop, go do something else and come back. Other times I just carry on because I'm so immersed in what I'm doing. But I do find that I associate the sound of the rain playing with being really in the zone and really productive. So I find that when I'm writing, I have one idea, I'm writing about it. I don't tend to get too much other inspiration. I'll open maybe like 4 or 5 other tabs, but the moment it gets too much for me, like I would say 10 tabs is as much as I can handle. I'm just like, nah, it's too much. My screen just looks horrible.
What's funny is I don't think I need to handle tabs.
But because I know you have so many tabs open, it's just horrible.
Yeah, and I closed them all up because I had a video streaming gaming session on Wednesday. Yeah, I put like 50 more tabs, and then I didn't reopen them. I just when I was done on Thursday, I reopened different ones.
But my point is, you think it's normal. It's not. That's your ability.
I know other people behave this way, so it's normal for the people who behave this way.
It's normal for the people who behave that way. But I
don't know if it's the right way to behave, but it's
no. But like, there's a compliment coming, so you need to be quiet. Okay. So the sheer breadth and depth of your thinking, I think, is amazing. The way you do have an ability to come up with ideas and then see how it links to something else and then put it together and whatever. And then you might get stuck in a death loop where you're like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Oh my God, I haven't written anything. Oh my God. But like, that's why we have these creative sessions, because I certainly want to see what you produce. My French I did French A level, so I can't read your French stuff, but I would read it if it was in English. But
are there translation buttons
on LinkedIn? I didn't notice there was one. By
the way, let me share my screen. And then I spent a bit of too much time.
Did you get my compliment?
I did get your compliment. Thank you.
Don't be an arse about this, because you do have a lot of ideas that people want to know about. And I promise you, it's not normal the way you think. It's unique.
Sorry, I was bouncing. Yeah, I did get.
You do have a unique set of talents, and so does everyone, right? So we all do.
Yes.
The way I work,
I believe that.
People.
I agree.
Look at me.
I agree. And believe that.
This is why we like talking, because people look at me and go, "What are you on?" I'm like, "It's normal. It's just this how it goes." No.
Who tells you that?
Occasionally, I have it in class. Like.
Yeah, but aren't they teenagers? You can't really. They're not reliable witnesses.
Yeah. Or other times, Davina will go, "What?" I'll say something, and I realize I have to backtrack and explain my thought process. My sister too.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Most people do not understand the things I come up with. But I also I do spend a lot of time alone.
My other favorite
and working
example,
from home. So, and that's for example, I had a really great piece of work of coaching and then being a jury for a student challenge for the school. Working on a nonprofit organization brief, which was really great. It's an international small nonprofit called Serve the City, and they have a branch in Paris. And so they're supporting refugees, homeless people, like that. And it's particularly an expat community NGO, which is interesting as well for Paris. So anyway, so my point was coaching student teams, and I only have a 20-minute call with each one of them. There's like back to back with, and I there's a 5-minute which I use, and I'm late on everything, so I do at least 25 minutes with them. But it goes back to back, and it's a very little amount of time.
Yeah, it is.
To try to, and there are 7 people in the team. I'm coaching them on it, and they have a lot to do. It's a challenge. It was a challenging. It was a very good brief, but also a very challenging brief. And they have a week to come up with a response to the brief, and to put together a 15-minute presentation that it needs to answer all the different challenges in the brief. And in this particular case, the NGO is looking to develop a sort of community center.
Okay.
And they're looking at running a crowdfunding campaign to raise the money to finish building it and to operate it and the thing would be an integrated center with, dorm rooms, places to stay, places to work, to learn French, to practice, to help you with your paperwork. So, and they're calling it a sort of life incubator, something to put you back on your feet with everything that you need, and more than a bed, because they need more than that. And I mean, they don't have a bed to begin with, but anyhow, so they needed to come up with an overall, which was part of what they study. And the most difficult thing, and what I focus on the most as a strategist, is to go to the beginning on exactly what's the background of research, who is it that you're talking to, what insight are you relying your communication on, and what's the idea for your message? What's your idea and what's your message? And then they needed to come up with a video, so a video and a storyboard concept.
Yeah, is that part of the crowdfunding thing, or just part of the brief?
That was part of the brief and the crowdfunding thing. Yeah. And then to tell them how they're going to run the crowdfunding campaign, and how they're going to run it on social media. So the idea part of it is the most difficult, and it's the most difficult thing to convey. But if you don't have that, then you don't have the rest of it. And there's a lot of students, and I don't really have time to teach all of this within the 20 minutes of coaching, but I'm trying to cram in as much as possible. And there's sometimes, just to circle back to this idea that, I'm not making sense. I'm like, this is not like this. It doesn't work. But I don't know if they understand me.
Yeah.
I'm taking a shortcut, and I'm being purposefully a little bit opaque. Because that I think sometimes I'm looking at them, I'm like, do you understand? I'm not sure this is coming across the point I'm making. And and then this is, and one of my pet peeves, but it comes through in a lot of students. Increasingly, students take a plan for what platforms to communicate on as a response to as an idea, rather than having an idea and a message. They're going to tell me we should communicate on Twitch, and this is why.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So
or with an influencer, and I'm like, an influencer on Twitch is not an idea, and it's not a message.
Totally,
it's a platform, and it drives me nuts. This is my pet peeve as a teacher. But we should go on Instagram, and there were one presentation I told them that I was like, they were like, yeah, so we should do this because it's free publicity, and TikTok is easy to do. I'm like, no, you never do a presentation in front of a client saying the platform is easy and cheap. Do not do that. It's not, and it's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, you are deluded if you think this is easy to go viral on TikTok.
It's so, like, I totally agree with you. Like, but I get probably shouldn't say this on a live YouTube, but I'm going to anyway. I get frustrated.
I shouldn't have said that either. And I shared on Facebook and Twitter, so then we might have people watching now. Go figure.
Well, it says one.
Look at that. We have 5 playbacks.
It's me watching. What does that mean?
How can that be 5? I'm 1.
I don't know what 5. Well, I'm watching it now. Anyway,
I know, we have 2.
I get frustrated.
That's me and you.
That's me and you. I get frustrated with how our school. So I'm going to stop watching now because it's confusing me. I get frustrated with how our school markets itself. Right? And
do you really want to talk? Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
So, or anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same. I had the same conversations with the kids at school, and I'm going to tell you about something's happening at school.
Remind me, I want to share my screen to show you something. Circle back about my post.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's gonna run with what you're saying.
Okay. The idea, having a good idea. Have an idea. Just don't like rehash stuff. So what's happening at school is that, and then the idea of
which is the most challenging thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
Granted, it is that, but if you don't have that, then what are we talking about?
Yeah, but you and I can. This is other. It relates back to what we were saying earlier, right? So, you and I can come up with ideas till the cows come home. It's not really a problem for us. So Davina challenged me once. I said, well, you could just do this, and I could come up with 5 ideas right now. She went, go on then, and then I just reeled off 5 things. And her face was like, okay. And I don't find it hard to come up with ideas or concepts or whatever. The making it real thing then becomes more interesting, and Davina's really good at that. But my thought process, having to explain it all the time, is tiring. The other example I was going to give is being in the cinema and laughing at something I find funny and nobody else is laughing.
Yeah, you've given this example before.
Yeah, no.
But that's why I want to hang out with people mostly who get me. Otherwise, it's just boring. That's why I enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's happening? I love what you're saying about to the students about who cares about the platform? What's your idea? What's the message? What are you trying to say? All that kind of stuff. So at my school, we have something called Enterprise Week every year. And the sixth form, it's a bit like a task on The Apprentice. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. How it works is there's about 80 in the sixth form. So they're like 16, 17, 18. They're a pre-university year group. And they get to bid for a particular product to sell at school. And then they get to bid for a particular location to sell at the school. They have to put together a 2-minute ad, which goes out in the whole school assembly on the Monday. And then on the Friday, there's an extended break time for like half an hour instead of 20 minutes where they sell to the school.
What's the product? Who decides what it is?
So me and the other head of another business
do they put their products together or they give them something?
No. They bid for the chance to sell a particular product. So the products are things like donuts, pizza, like just all that kind of stuff, right?
Got it.
Milkshakes. And then they have to promote it through the school using like posters that have that 2-minute.
Do they have to create their own pizza brand and say like this, buy my pizza? No, okay.
Well, they might, but they don't really. But they usually source the pizza from a local pizza place. They get they source all the stuff themselves. We give them £30 to start up, and then that's
an exercise I gave my first year students on the branding foundations class. They had to create a brand. In this case, the breakfast burritos, like a breakfast burrito chain.
Okay, so they don't have to.
Which I had given them the unique selling proposition was that it was a breakfast burrito and a Yorkshire pudding.
Oh my gosh!
And it was like you have a brand new idea and you have a new formulation for your Yorkshire pudding that makes it a little bit softer to squish and roll around, and you're opening a breakfast burrito joint in London, and you have to create your brand.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's a fun exercise, and I'll probably do the same or similar for it's good. That's my next semester's class with the first year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So what we do is that I run an auction, and they bid for each of the products. Now, of course, they know that there's donuts, there's pizza. That over the years, different products have had different success, and like sweets, whatever it is. Right? So they bid. They're all massively bidding. I tell you what, doing an auction is so hard. Oh my god!
But how do they? What is it they bid?
Money? They bid.
Their money? Whose money is it?
Well, they get £30 to start with, and they put their own money into it.
Okay.
So usually,
they bid to buy the right to sell a donut versus a pizza, or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever.
And then they have to sell it to make their money back.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'll keep going. I'm following slowly.
You following it? So
it was really, really interesting. So let's say, I want to get the right to sell the donuts.
Yes.
And I'm with a group of people. We each have 30 pounds.
There's 8 forms, 8 groups, and 8 products, and 8 sites.
And about how many? What's the form? Is that a class?
Yeah, a form of class. Yeah, a class.
So what? 30 students? 25? Something like that?
No. So there's no. So across 8 forms is about 80. So there's about 10 in each class, 10 per group.
Okay, so there's 10 pupils per group.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
About that. Yeah. And so I'm with 9 other people, and we've got a pool of 300 pounds.
Could be
among ourselves, because we've got 30 each.
No, 30 per group.
Oh, per group. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I bid, and I'm using my 30 plus whatever else I want to put to get the donuts.
Yep.
So that you're running an auction, which you're saying is wild to begin with.
Yeah, and I ham it up and I make it stupid and I make jokes about people's mums and all that kind of stuff.
And so let's say I've got the bid for the right to sell the donuts that I wanted, or my group wanted.
Yep.
We spent £35 on it. I don't know.
Yep.
And then what happens?
And then they bid for a particular location around the school from which they will be selling. Correct. Now, I also make the point to them. If you got
we have to think about what is the best place to sell the product we've got.
Yeah, but if you've got a great product, location is irrelevant.
But the donuts, I have to go find and source the donuts, or you give them
Yes.
to me?
No, I'm not giving. No, they have to go find the source of donuts.
So a local donut shop of some kind.
Correct.
And then I have to buy the donuts
Yep.
and resell them.
Yep.
And somehow, like I'm already 35 under
Yep.
to begin with.
Yep.
And then I have to spend more of my money to buy the donuts.
Yep. Yep.
And somehow sell them at with a profit.
Yep.
But also make up the beginning 35 that I'm at a loss to begin with.
Plus the cost of where you sell it. So you might have spent another 10 pounds on getting this prime location outside a particular building where there's loads of footfall.
So there's also an incentive for me to try to get the donuts for cheaper than they are the normal retail sale.
Correct.
Okay. Or whatever other product. I'm using this to make sure I understand how it works.
Yeah, you've got it.
It's very,
and you've identified more of the issues than they think of.
Yeah, they don't think about that.
No, they don't think about minimizing their costs. They think about, oh, we have to get this product because it's really amazing, and they always win. Now, what makes it more interesting is that not only
seriously mercantile business and capitalism for high school.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, interesting.
So I worked out 1 year. So we've been doing this for years. It's part of the culture of the school. Like 10 years ago, I don't know.
And the sale is what, 1 day, 2 days? Did you say 1 day?
It's well, I worked this. Get this right. So I worked it out. The first couple of years we did it, I worked out that £700 worth of transactions took place in 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Now it's gone up since then in half an hour. It must be pushing £1,000.
Is that the beginning of the sales, or is that during the bidding time or auction?
No, that's the actual selling time to the school, to the pupils that they have. If you added up all the revenue that they make from all the products in the half an hour that it happens, that's how much gets sold, how much buying and selling happens in that short space of time. It's wild. There's pupils everywhere. There's money. There's products. There's food. It's mad. And it works. But they don't think about minimizing their costs. Now, the thing that I think would interest you...
They still think of maximizing their profit, though.
Oh, they have to. Now, you've got business students and economic students who get some of this stuff. Now, the thing that I think you would find really interesting is the 2-minute advert.
Yes. I'm finding the whole thing fascinating, to be honest.
Okay. So I'm actually thinking...
I don't know if it's great content for our viewers, but I don't care. I'm happy.
I don't care either. I'm wondering if you should join via Teams and judge. Because what the other thing they have to do is they have to present their strategy, why they chose the ad that they did, what their message was, how much money they spent, how much profit they made, what happened. They have to present that on Friday afternoon to a bunch of judges.
When is this?
And then this is not next week is half term. The week after, so it's like Friday the 4th of March or something.
Okay, tell me. I'd love to.
Because
I thought it sounds like a wild fun. I would love to be a professional jury to judge their ads or whatever.
It's on Friday the 4th of March.
I think I can do that.
And it's at 3, so it'll be like 2:30 or 2 o'clock till 4. So I'm thinking you could join, and honestly, you can be absolutely horrible and vicious to these people because you absolutely should. Yeah, you should.
Because that's part of the show and the fun.
It's part of the show. Like I wasn't involved massively last year. I always do the auction, but I honestly. Oh god, I
like reality TV judge kind of thing, just really horrible.
Yeah, but also you know this stuff.
Yeah,
this is your world, right? So honestly, you can have really great shot ads, and you don't know what the hell the product is. You don't know where it's being sold, and you don't know how much it's for. It's It's crap ad. Whereas you've got other teachers like, oh my God, this is an amazing ad. I'll stand up there and go, yeah, it might look cool, but what's the product, people? We don't know what it is. How much is it? Oh, we don't know what it is. Oh, where are they selling? Oh, we don't know what it is. Pointless.
Yeah, I had similar comments with my coaching calls with the students this week where I was like, what's and they were like, well, we don't really want to be very overt about the fact that we're raising money. I'm like, okay, but this is a crowdfunding campaign. You need to be overt about who you are and what you're raising money for, because otherwise you're not going to raise the money.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I do get that with students in advertising. And I also, sometimes I feel like they're old person's comments, but they're true, that it needs to serve a purpose. So when the client's going to want to see their product on this thing, and there needs to be a message that is associated with what their goal is. Otherwise,
Now this
what's
goes
the
back
point?
to everything we've been talking about having a clear idea and then following it through. The groups that win this are the ones that have a clear message, a clear concept. It all matches together.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing fits. So there's hot dogs every year, right? And one year they had Keith's hot dogs. So they've got a very distinctive member of the class in the ad, and everyone knows him. Everyone in the school knows him, and they're feeding him hot dogs. And in the ad, it's a great soundtrack and it's distinctive things. It was a time about that mannequin challenge thing. They had that whole thing going.
What?
Do you remember that? The mannequin challenge?
No, what was that?
That's where you had to sit. Everyone sat really still, and they filmed a video, and it was to a particular soundtrack. It would have been a TikTok trend now.
Yeah, sure.
It's pre-TikTok. So they did that in their ad.
I'm not on trend with TikTok trends.
Me neither.
I know a few, but I'm not. I don't know what's going on right now, like at all. I can't keep up.
Exactly.
I don't. But I just sometimes I look at it too. If I have a client meeting where I need to kind of impress them and show them they know the trends, then I will check the trends and show them, and everybody's going to go like, "Wow, it's crazy what's going on with the kids."
Yeah.
But anyway, I do that only to show them that I know a little bit more than them.
That's all you need. But the teams that win, it's just like you're saying, they have a clear message. The ad matches the message. The ad is distinctive and memorable. Everyone knows what it's about. Everyone can see when they come out of break, they associate what they see with what they've seen with the ad, with the message. It all fits together, which means they sell loads, which means they can put across their concept when they do the presentation, and it all fits. Yep. But trying to communicate this to a bunch of sixth formers just seems really difficult.
It's really difficult to communicate it with students that are specializing in learning this stuff.
It's and teachers.
But I don't have the anyway, this is all sorts of stuff about the school syllabus and curriculum and different teachers. We have enormous amounts of freedom to teach whatever we want. So anyway, and they're reorganizing a lot of that in the school right now. So I'm going to waiting to find out.
So
they're
I'm going to
reorganizing all the tracks in the school. Anyway, I'm
going to link it all back to everything we've been talking about. So I think what I'm getting from all of this is you can't have a clear ending without a really great idea that you know what it is, what you're trying to say. If you can't even focus on getting to the end if you haven't got a germ of an idea.
Yeah.
And like so many people think, it's a great example. Oh, we'll just put it on TikTok and it will be great.
Yeah.
What's your idea?
Yeah, exactly. And if you have a great idea, then you will have a great idea of how that message shines through on TikTok, on Twitch. But that's what's difficult because TikTok is not an idea. Twitch is not an idea. And also students and pupils, in your case, I find, and just everybody, vastly underestimates the amount of time and effort it takes to put something together to put on TikTok and be successful.
Yeah.
And they do realize when they're in mock agency stuff, it just, and just like when I was talking about the B2B stuff with clients.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to put stuff together unless you have a dedicated marketing team. And the few blog posts of, like why you should do Instagram actually, I'm going to show you why you should do. I'm going to share my screen for a second to show you this because
hang on. I haven't enabled you as a person who can actually do that yet. So really? I don't think so. Check.
I don't think. Look,
you can. Oh, good.
Look at that. So I spent that image. Yeah. So I spent time looking for. I was just looking at B2B images, so it's not nice because I'm singling one out. But I was looking for bad examples of B2B marketing on Instagram. So it's not nice because I'm singling these people out. But still, I'm like, for me to publish this on Instagram is a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you look for on Instagram, but I don't think that you really need this. And now, it's mean of me to point them out because it's just a small business somewhere in Malaysia or wherever. and they just put together this montage of their business, the people. It was super businessy coffee meeting and their entrance, and it's just like,
why
next to artists and visual stuff and stories and influencers of fashion influencers on Instagram, which is what's really, really, really popular. What's the point of having this small business? So that was my idea, and I spent a while trying to find a good example, because otherwise on the B2B those posts saying like you should totally do that, they were showing examples from, for example, MailChimp. MailChimp doesn't have that many followers, but they do have nice stories, but they're also a massive company. They have an enormous marketing team.
They were bought by like Salesforce or something, weren't they?
I think they were, yeah.
They were acquired, but also,
they communicate with a lot of small to medium businesses or people, like individuals
who might want to set up a mailing list and use MailChimp.
Exactly.
That's where the audience
their content on Instagram has got very little to do with the structure of their business. It's just like sharing, it's just colorful stories of their brand stuff together, and it's good. But it's not really about building a newsletter.
Basically, the other thing that we're saying,
it's possible to do great B2B content, but is that your priority? Is my thing.
Yeah. But the other thing we're basically saying is, if you want ideas, go to Willem.
Yeah, I'm also saying that I'm looking for new clients. So if you want to have ideas for your brand and how to communicate your brand with your audience, I have time available.
Where are you? Where are you available?
Oh, I'm available. You can find me on LinkedIn. Or you can just Google my name. You can find me on my website, which is icecreamforeveryone.net, which still works, even though it's still clunky and I need to move it somewhere else. But yeah, you can connect on LinkedIn, and you can email me at willem@icecreamforeveryone.net, but I'm easily findable. I'm all across all the social networks.
Coming up with an idea is one thing, and then executing on it is another thing, and then ending it is another thing. So our creative sessions are definitely about exploring creativity, but also our creative projects. And this episode, I'm kind of bringing it to a close. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think I thought we had a few minutes, but
we do have a few minutes. Okay, just we'll see. I'm summarizing. We'll see where we go from here.
So because I think we haven't. Anyway, go ahead. It's fine.
So if you come up with an idea and then you execute on it, the ending, I think, from everything we've been talking about what I'm getting from this conversation is the ending comes from having a really good idea, and how you get to the ending might vary. But if I don't have a good idea, I can't even think of an ending. But
yes, and because ideas are a dime a dozen. Let's not forget that a good idea becomes good only in context of whatever it is you're trying to do. So you need a frame. That's why we're talking about a message. So when I talk to my students about the structure of their presentation, and this is something that's difficult to explain unless I have a lot of time with them, and it's difficult to explain in 20 minutes. And is that it's not just the idea by itself or the message by itself. You need to build a context for it. Building a context means you give information for that. So you're framing it inside of, this is what we're trying to do. This is who we're speaking to. This is what they react to. This is what they're interested in. These are examples of what it could be. And this is why the idea and the message is a good idea, because otherwise it's just, ideas are like worthless otherwise in and of themselves. They're worth everything and nothing. They're just like sheer possible.
Yeah.
But if you frame them to explain why it's a good idea, and in terms of a communication, why this is going to work. Now, and everybody's got different ways of working. And I think I'd be interested in listening possibly to the Cal Newport interview, although I haven't listened to Tim Ferriss in a while. I'm a little bit over him, but
me too.
But Cal Newport talks about his structure in deep work, and I haven't read his other books because I read some summaries and a couple of other articles, and they seem to be exactly the same idea as deep work and just said differently. So I thought, okay, I think I know enough about what this guy is saying. So he's very structured, as you said, and as I tend to agree. So you're putting the frame together of what is it I'm trying to say, how am I going to say it, and the structure also of this, which is a traditional one, which was it Dale Carnegie, who talks about public speaking as say what you're going to say it, and then repeat what you
Probably.
said.
Yeah.
So each chapter is a bit of this, and a lot of the traditional nonfiction books follow the same structure. Or I, more of a gardener, I start writing, start putting ideas together, and then in the middle of it, start looking at where am I going with this, and then put the end. So I'm building, rather than building the frame in advance, like these guys who are very technical, I think, I go with the flow, and then I try to figure what I've got.
And that's a fiction. Could that be a fiction versus nonfiction?
No, because I do that with nonfiction as well.
Ah, okay. So when you're writing your article about Instagram,
I don't know
B2B,
where I'm going with this.
You don't know where you're going with it.
No, Instagram B2B, I forced myself to do something different, which took a little bit longer.
Okay.
But like the week before, when I wrote about the Olympics, or when I write about two different ideas that don't seem to be related, and I relate them, and that's my end point, is to make a point. And I did those two articles quite rapidly, so that the end is not as great as I would have thought. But the general gist of those structures is to take two concepts and two things that happened, like the thing I did a month ago about
the Blizzard,
the same day,
Microsoft.
Exactly. The Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard for $68 billion, and the new global report on inequalities from Oxfam was released. Those two things are not immediately related, but I relate them, and at the end, I put a sentence putting both of those things together, which was, there's hundreds of millions of people who don't have enough to eat, but they will have new video games to play, and they're going to be cheap. So it's great. They won't be bored while they go hungry.
So that was your first one, and the second one was the Winter
about
Olympics
the Olympic Games, and that was a little bit more, a little bit less about two things that are unrelated, because they were very much related. It was talking about the difficulties and the puzzle of how much investment to put into your communication for a partner brand of the Olympics, because there was a lot of controversies around it. There are a lot of controversies around the Olympics.
The snow thing, yeah.
Not just the snow thing. That was just one among many.
Of many. And then your
the
third
Uyghurs,
article,
freedom of speech, the way the Olympics were organized. So most of the global partners of the Olympics decided not to put big global videos behind it, which normally they do.
Mm.
And a lot of them communicated in China for Chinese campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
A few of them did global videos, but most of them just decided to go fairly quiet. And interestingly, there's a lot less people. I heard that in a podcast this week. The audiences for the Olympics, both winter and summer, the past few years have been going down. Got even worse with the pandemic, of course, because it was like delayed a year. But even then, the past few apparently have been just like going down in terms of audience. And I don't know if there's less investment from media and TV into them, or what is going on.
If people are, okay.
Or if it's, and then, actually the people on the podcast were speculating as to like why, because sports in the US is like at an all-time high, and football and Premier League is at an all-time high. And so why is it that the Olympics are getting less audiences? Is it what's going on there?
Mm.
Is it political? Is it an international thing? Is it because it's happening? It's not all the time. Like the Premier League is all the time, or every year. There's not.
Can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And then your third one was about this B2B thing.
Yeah, that was a different one.
Things?
That was a okay. Now, rather than writing an article that is in depth about a topic, let's do something that is a bit of a listicle with a quick example, and that's what apparently gets more views. So I tried to do something to get more views.
Post versus
article, and also something that was a bit shorter, and not as thought through, but still had an idea and a point to it.
But with a post, there's a word limit, isn't there, or character limit?
There's a much shorter character limit, and now all of these are within the character limit. Anyway, and there's also just, if you write a long post, very few people are going to read it, presumably. And that was all. It started out with a question about what we're going to post for my client on LinkedIn this week. And they wanted to post about an article talking about the implementation of automation in the logistics industry, which was very interesting but quite dense. It was a long article. And I read it, and I wrote a paragraph to put some questions together. And my client was like, but isn't that a little bit long? Do people really read this on LinkedIn? And I was like, well, actually, yes, they do. So you shouldn't make it too long. But the first iteration was just one sentence. And I thought we should do better than this. We need to have our perspective as a company to add to what the post says, but do it short. But it was difficult to do it quickly because the article itself was very dense and had a lot of different sources to it. So to summarize what your opinion of that article is in a very short, dense thing, while putting a question out there and a point of view on top of what the article was saying, was challenging. And I only did one per first pass, and actually I didn't check up with what they posted in the end.
Yeah, that's a kind of related to trying to get to the end, trying to complete something when there's lots of different sources, but make it relevant to the audience and on the medium that's right, in a way. That goes back to your point about it's all very well having an idea, but without the context and the framework around it, it's nothing.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that, and I usually overthink things. So like the the famous French quote from, I can't remember who said it, Voltaire, Rousseau, someone. Anyway, no, I think it was Descartes, maybe, I can't remember. Le mieux est l'ennemi du bien. So the better is the enemy of the good. Sometimes things are good enough, like the 80-20 perspective.
Yeah.
But I always want to go one step beyond, because I've read all of these things. I hate the listicle type things on LinkedIn and all the social media, but it is what works to be noticed. And I should do a bit more. I feel like I should do a bit more of that to have the views and to get the visibility on LinkedIn, for example, even though I hate what I consider to be adding to the pointless noise. And ironically, I have a harder time putting together something that seems to be a simple 3-thing list than I do writing a more complicated article.
Could you repurpose one? Could you write the long thing and then make it a listicle?
I don't know, possibly.
Have an article and a post, and the post.
I should be doing both.
But would you
should be doing both in English and French. They're two separate things. Well, you could be doing both, but it takes you a bit longer to do both.
But I don't know what I mean is, could you write your article, and then do your listicle based on that article as a post, and then link the two? Maybe,
but if
that harder?
It would take longer. The topic of the article still needs to be something that you can be of interest in a listicle.
Yeah.
And if I would usually choose something that is a little bit, I'm going to say esoteric, it's not the right word, but just a little bit
obscure,
maybe too obscure. Even though, I mean, it's not really obscure to talk about Oxfam and the Microsoft purchase. That was big business news. I don't know. I'm always just wondering what kind of stuff I should be writing about that to be popular.
Which is, again, the whole point.
I tend to write a lot of things that
just
stay obscure. And then I have a couple of random people that are like, wow, that was really great. And then I look at people that I think to be successful and I'm like, oh, maybe I should be more like them. I don't know. So anyway, that post this week was an attempt to be a bit more playing in like, okay, let's write something that gets
I do think you're going to find your voice as you write more. You'll find the thing that works for you as when you've done like.
No, but I do, but this type of stuff that I did this week goes against writing from my voice. What
I mean is that
but it works, I think. Anyway, it gets more views.
But the rhythm of writing regularly means I think you'll find it easier to put together something that works for you and achieves what you want it to do.
You're also correct. I need to keep doing the posting every week on LinkedIn. And ideally, I should probably post at least twice. Really? As in one quick listicle at a post and one maybe longer article, or do both, or summarize one or the other like you suggested, perhaps.
Yeah, repurposing content isn't as easy as it sounds.
I overthink it probably. I don't know if other people spend less time at it, but I try to do something that's going to be really worth it and original.
I think the thing that sums up,
and by the way, still thinking everything I'm doing is not good enough anyway. which
Even though
you might agree with. I don't know. I say you general viewer.
People, yeah. But I think probably the key quote from today's stream is good is the enemy of, what is it? How do you say it? I've said it wrong. I've mangled it.
Better is the enemy of good.
Better is the enemy of good. Yeah, good enough. It's good enough.
And good enough is where. So it sounds better in French, but
say in French.
Le mieux est l'ennemi du bien.
That does sound better in French.
Yeah.
80% is good enough. I told there was a teacher who I was supporting in their teacher training. I was like, you can't have every single lesson be super duper 100% planned every single time. It's just like your head would explode. Yeah. 80% is good enough. And then the other thing I look at is 80% would be an A grade most times. Yeah, cool. That's what I do. So maybe that's the secret to getting to endings of everything. 80% is good enough.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to do with my short story. Go, okay, you know what? I need to, if I manage to make this end work, stick to it. Even though I'm thinking it's the main thing that came to mind and it's not original at all, if I write it correctly, it should work.
Bear in mind, have you ever completed a short story?
No.
So this is going to be a big deal.
It is a big deal, yeah. So I have a lot of work to get it finished, I think.
And on that note,
let's finish this stream.
Let's finish the stream.
End it for today.
Creative endings for today. Yeah. Thank you as
Thank
ever.
you.
Hang on. How do I end it?
You're the person who's
Where's the button?